to the late one with yours truly, Sylbourne Studio. I hope you had a very good and wonderful week so far. We are now Thursday, getting out of this week and moving straight into the weekend. The weekend. Thank God it's Friday, as they would say, which I don't know if anybody really can go anywhere now because TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. That is something that many people um, talk about a lot. But can that happen? As everyone is on what they call it, lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. As I do the rap, lockdown, lockdown, in the place to be. My name is Sid, when you listen to me, rocking on a microphone stand. Everybody's telling you about the plan, and everybody wants to say this is the way how things gonna be. Lockdown till we take the vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Will you take the vaccine? Everybody's actually having debates. Wonder should they do the vaccine or not? But I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, as the Prime Minister said, I won't be forcing this upon you, but I will be a part of the process to make sure that this happens. I would ask you this question. Hey, how are you, J. Marie Barrett? Now, normally you would see myself with my three compatriots, up to David and Keisha and Keima. I think David may come on. I think Keisha is not well. And as for Keima, so I said, let me just come on, do my dutiful duties, and just come on and just to say hi. And I say hi, no, I say bye. No, I'm gonna say bye. You know, but on a serious note now, and there's always the opportunity that one can actually share something which is happening worldwide. And I say worldwide because things are so much happening in the world now that sometimes you wonder if there's anything else um, going on other than COVID, other than Trump, other than whatever. And that's why it was so interesting that I had a mate from Jamaica last night talking about some of the flooding which is happening in Jamaica and also in other countries, other things are happening. And get some sort of idea from Netherlands, even though he's in Netherlands, and but just give an idea. Well, one of the things that I was looking at today, and you know, there's an interesting thing which is happening whereby a particular city, or an area which is called Kent, Kent in the UK, is saying, why has all of Kent been put in tier three? Uh, plum slums of fury of rural areas who say they're being unfairly locked down because they're in the same county as urban hotspots. So what is happening now? This lockdown, lockdown, lockdown thing. Now, I'm not one who's going to be going against lockdown as I'm not a professional. If you know that movie with Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, the guy keeps saying to him, "I'm a professional. I'm a professional," and he said, "I keep hearing this thing all the while. I am a professional." You know, just bear with me 1 second, and for those who can hear this, let me do this. Uh, I just want you to bear with me 1 second. Don't move. Don't go anywhere, and don't be square. Yes. One of the things I had. Yeah, one of the things I have to get now my water. Water is so important. Water is the source of life. But yeah, in Kent, actually, I go to court in Kent. When I go to court, that's where I go to in Kent, and the infections rates vary dramatically across the Kent from 5.417 per 100,000 Swale to 120 per 100,000 in Ashford. Lowest rates are mostly in rural areas, while the more urbanized boroughs are driving the outbreak. Several Kent MPs have voiced alarm over the decision to plunge all of Kent into Tier 3, the toughest level. Towns and villages across Britain were furious tonight before Boris Johnson confirmed, you know, All but three places in England will be plunged into the toughest brackets, despite many of the local cases being in small urban hotspots and in some authority areas. The move prompted fury from rural areas in Kent, which was placed under the Tier 3 coronavirus restrictions today, who said they have been unfairly locked down by sprawling cases in urban centres. Now, I think, ladies and gentlemen, the key issue here is livelihoods. The key issue here is lifeline. The key thing here is people's business. People have been building their business for years, and somehow they're under the impression somehow that all of a sudden, all of a sudden, um, government COVID is mashing up them life. You know, as the song says by I think there's this Jamaican singer called Nika. It's mashing up them life, right? COVID is just mashing up many people's lives now, and it is not something which is welcome. And many people are saying there must be more to this whole thing. Why? Why? In London, I mean, you know, there are five things they say we need to know about the COVID pandemic this Thursday evening. And this Thursday evening, because we're talking about relaxing the lockdown, but they say your tear is not your destiny, right? Your tear is not your destiny. Every area of England has the means to escape the toughest tears of COVID restrictions. Boris Johnson, after the government confirmed most of the country placed into the two toughest levels when the national lockdown ends on 2nd of December, and the Speaker of Downing Street, the Prime Minister said the extent of the restriction would bring a great deal of heartbreak and frustration, especially for vital hospitality sector. But he suggests rapid community testing could make it easier for areas to move down the levels of rule, adding, your tier is not your destiny. Your tier. The other thing also which I talk about is the bubble. The bubble. Everybody is talking about this bubble. What bubble am I in? What bubble are you in as well? And that's the whole thing where everybody's somewhat in a quandary. Now, death is serious, right? People's lives and people are not healthy, and your health is your wealth, and people are not able to actually see their family members. That's serious stuff. Christmas is coming. They say "Mwama Yama," as they say in Jamaica, but many people are going to be affected this time around because of Christmas. Piers Morgan, Lorraine, and a couple of persons are saying that we should not have Christmas, postpone Christmas. My question to you: how can you postpone Christmas? If anybody can say that to me, you tell me. How can you actually postpone Christmas? It is not possible to postpone Christmas. You might be postponed from some of the things and the activities that you are doing, but you cannot postpone Christmas because Christmas is something which is it's a religious treat. It is an ideology at the same time. Many persons see Christmas in different ways, right? So not everybody that celebrate Christmas are the same way, and and that is one of the major concerns that people are having. And we go into the part which is tier two. I think I'm looking for something here. Um, Where's my glasses? Well, don't worry. I think I can still read. Where's my glasses there? Yeah, the the part two there. I'll have to struggle without my glasses today, if anything. Um, Under the revised local COVID tiers, the majority of England, including London and Liverpool City region, will be in Tier 2, while large swaths of the Midlands, North East, and Northwest, including Manchester, as well as Kent, will face the toughest Tier 3 restrictions. It means about 55 million people remain banned from mixing with other households indoors. Health Secretary Mancock said, placing most of the country in the toughest two tiers. So they shut down the country and they open it back, and you go into some stricter tiers, and it says your tier is not your destiny. 2.55 million 55 million people to be unable to mix indoors. Now that's the other thing. um, People cannot mix. People cannot mix. So you can't go and see your virgin, you can't see your mates anymore because you're on total lockdown. I don't know how people feel about that. I don't know how you feel about that. Hey, how you doing? I don't know how you feel about someone telling you, say, you can't go there, you can't go over there. I think in America, one guy said he's not going to shut his shop, he's not going to shut his store, because if he does that, he's going to suffer completely. His family is going to suffer, and the government and those guys in power, they're not going to be suffering at all because they're okay, right? Let's say Biden, let's say Trump, let's say Kamala, and all those guys, they're all okay. They will not be affected at all. But the average bloke out there will be totally affected by this whole thing called this lockdown. It's not about COVID anymore. It's about the lockdown. How do you fare with the lockdown? How would you fare with a lockdown with your business? Right? Many people, as they say, are suffering. Right? Can you put a pause on life itself? We can postpone Christmas. It will still happen. Some will choose not to celebrate it. Exactly. And people choose not to celebrate Christmas if they don't want to celebrate Christmas. Again, if people don't want to celebrate Christmas, they just don't celebrate Christmas. You can't pause it. It's like you're trying to tell people that they can't have a life, right? I know somebody will say that this is sort of a bit harsh, but you know, you have one life to live. You got to live it. You got to live it in peace. You got to live it in truth, and you've got to live that life because either way, whether you live it or not, it's gonna come at you. And how can you? It's like you're trying to keep life, trying to protect life. But can we do that in a certain way? Can we do that? Let me just do something here. Um, right now, the other bit here, which I noticed what the government is saying, and I'm just really regurgitating some of the things what the government's saying, and just sort of breaking it down from my perspective as I can see it. And this is straight because the the prime minister, I would say, is under pressure. I don't know if he's still isolating. Um, but they said the infection rate at the same time is leveling. Now, during the elections of recent days, one of the things they used to talk about was leveling off. Everything is leveling off, level. You know, the infection rate leveling in England, rising in Scotland. Further evidence COVID infections are leveling off in England, and data from the Office of National Statistics suggest infection rates are falling in number of parts of England, including northwest London and the southwest, but rising in the Midlands and the northwest. However, it's a mixed picture across the UK, right? And they say, and infection rates are there. Scotland, Christmas bubbles limited to 8 people. Somebody's going to tell you that you can't go anywhere. You've got a limit to 8 persons, man. You only can mix with 8 people this Christmas. How are you going to do that? Further details have emerged about what Christmas will look like for Scotland, right? For the news that the bubbles, what bubble are you in? Which bubble are you in? They're putting in bubbles. So therefore, people are now being placed. I don't want to sound a bit pessimistic. I don't want to sound a bit anti what is happening. But there's another undercurrent or another difficulty which is happening. And as much as possible, people are going to feel the impact of it. Green light for Nativity Place and Caroling. And talk about Nativity Place and Caroling. One of the things they talk about is that the church is being locked down. And football is going to be open up. You can go on the plane, you can sit in the plane, and you can be with thousands of people, crowd of people, and you just have on your mask, and you can go to the supermarket, yes, and you can buy your stuff. You can go to the wherever with people, but you can't go to church. That's not fair. That's what some people are saying. That's not fair. The truth is, life is about choices. We can choose to wear masks. We can choose to social distance and look down and choose to live. We can choose not to them, but us and our families at risk. And that is right. That is right because I I I I have like mask galore. I keep masks in my car. Of course, they are clean. I keep masks everywhere. Um, and during the course of that time, what I try to do, as much as possible, I try to make sure that I wear these masks because being if you're a responsible person, you want to wear masks for to protect your children. you want to wear a mask to protect your family, because what you're actually doing is somewhat acknowledging the fact that you've got to be responsible. So I am not one person. I'm not a person who is going to be anti-mask. I'll definitely not be anti-mask. Definitely not. I see no basis for me to be anti-mask. And and one of the things that I find out as well is that persons who really go hard against the COVID and say it's a conspiracy and all of that, sometimes something happens, and I'm not going to say what happens, but it seemed like they get impacted by COVID and it is not so pretty. So therefore, I would not really speak out too much against it, but I believe nothing is wrong with speaking about it. And there's a lot of happy clappy which is happening now because they have got a lot of um, viral vaccines. Lots of vaccines are out now. Pfizer, Oxford, and they're out in droves. And disclaimers: would you take the vaccine, or would you wait? Somebody said they're going to wait till 70 years before they can take a vaccine. Will you take the vaccine, or are you going to wait till 70 years? That's a big question. When are you going to take the vaccine? What are you waiting for to take the vaccine? Right? Because airlines are saying that unless you take the vaccine, you're not going to go on the plane. Football field actually, I believe, is saying that you got to have the vaccine. So therefore, you're going to have a certificate of fitness. Is that what it is? I have a certificate of fitness. Uh, Sylbourne City, you took the vaccine, so you can go on the plane. You can go to the supermarket. You can buy food. Sylbourne, you can go to the bookies. You can go to church and everything that Mark. Somebody said this is like a practice run for revelation. What is it? A practice run for regulation? That's what some says. Let's talk about it. I think it is. I believe there's nothing wrong with having a discussion on these topic. I don't believe it is something that one should be worried about being fact checked. There's so many raft of information which is out there talking about this virus. I mean, what I said, Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine dose error explained. On Monday, the world heard how the UK COVID vaccine from AstraZeneca and Oxford was highly effective in advanced trials. Highly effective. It gave hope of a new job to fight the pandemic that should be cheaper and easier to distribute than the Pfizer Biden, because one of them you got to keep it cold, right? The vaccine that announced similar impressive results just day before, but after the jubilation, some negative presses followed. On Thursday, multiple news outlets in the UK and USA reported that there were questions over the data. They weren't about safety, but rather how effective the jab is. The question centers around efficacy levels, right? They reported from the trial an overall efficacy of 70%, a low one of 62%, and a high of 90%. The question: will you be one that is ready to put yourself out there to say, I'm protecting myself from COVID, and as a result of that, what I'm going to do is take the vaccine? Are you one of them who say you're going to protect themselves against a cold, so you take the flu jab, right? And they said efficacy, the ability to produce a desired or intended result. Ability to produce a desired or intended result. Ability. The key word is desired or intended result. There's an intention. That doesn't mean to say it's effective, right? But again, who am I? I will not try to put a dampener on the professional, but nothing is wrong with speaking about it. And he said that's because different doses of the vaccine. I say vaccine because I've been saying vaccines for a while, were mistakenly used in a trial. Some volunteers were given shots, half the plant strength in error, yet that wrong dose turned out to be a winner. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? Some of the shots are weaker when they were designed to be containing much less of the ingredient that is meant to give a person immunity. The jab is actually two shots with the second given a month after the first as a booster. Man, when you read that, you start to think, hang on a second, these guys are going to be pumping us up. You're going to be a walking vaccine. You're going to be a walking zombie. You're going to be like the Manchurian candidate. When they press a button, you light up and you say, oh, it's going to be like the purge. I don't know. I'm just saying this. What do you think? What do you say? That's my thinking, ladies and gentlemen. It is very interesting days and interesting time. What does that mean? Some of the shots were weaker than they were designed to be, containing much less of the ingredient that is meant to give a person immunity. The jab is actually two shots. I repeat, with a second given a month after the first as a booster. So you get a shot and you get a booster. So therefore you're not pumping. I'm pumping, pumping, pumping. Pumping because I've got the vaccine. Pumping because I'm not boosted. I can go out there. What does that mean? Do I use a mask? Do I take off a mask? Do I walk around? Do I cough as I feel cough? Will I get flu still? Will I cough? Will I be able to get COVID? Not that you want it. Regulators were told about the error only, and they agreed that the trial could continue and more volunteers could be immunized. I wonder about this volunteer. Would you be a volunteer at this thing? Would you actually put yourself out there to be a guinea pig? Right? Many people do that. I think it has to do with maybe the need for money, and also I understand as well that they are saying that the lack of the representation from the BME community is also concerning. You know, now many people say that the BME, they're trying to get BME or black people to take vaccine, but I don't think that is the case. I think in real terms and maybe genuinely that they want somehow to get a wide cross section of persons to take the test. I think it is correct what has happened years ago where people were actually spooked and people were being tested, black people are being tested because they don't value the lives of black people. Hence the reason why they use monkeys, they use animals because they don't value life. So therefore, the persons that are tested, or it is what should I say, practice on, one could say they are not valued to a certain level because now their money is attached to it. So therefore, you become owned. The money now owns you in a certain way. So now you are just like a chattel, just like a slave, just like a person who is owned. So therefore, when taken from Africa and now you're in the Caribbean and you are still somewhat subservient, and yet somehow you are now a servant, and yet somehow you're now a slave. And now at the time when they start to do these different tests, you are given it because you are subservient and you are owned. So therefore, for persons who actually take the test now, the money exchange, there must be some money exchange, you are not owned because you have given over. And, but in a way, you have to ask a question, but how will you know if these things work? Right? How will you know if these things work? If someone is not don't test it, how will you know? Someone, I believe, has got to go and be a martyr for the cause. We all have to be a martyr for the cause in some respect. We all have to be somewhat of a guinea pig. Anything, the precedents are set. What were the results? I said about 3,000 participants were given the half dose and then a full dose 4 weeks later, and this regime appeared to provide the most protection or efficacy in the trial. The intended desired results, around 90%. How do they measure that? How do the persons go out there? In the large groups of early 9,000 volunteers were given 2 full doses, and 4 weeks apart efficacy was 62%, the intended desired results. AstraZeneca reported these percentages and also said that its vaccine was on average 70% effective at preventing COVID-19 illness. The figures left some experts scratching their head. They must be bald by now. Professor David Sylbourne said, immunization expert associate fellow of the Global Health Program at Chatham House think tank, said, you have taken 2 studies for which different doses were used and come up with a composite that doesn't represent either of the doses. I think many people are having trouble with that. AstraZeneca stressed that the data are preliminary rather than full. Ladies and gentlemen, um, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're at the threshold whereby there's a breakthrough. We're at the point whereby countries who rely on tourism need to get back on their feet. We're at the stage whereby life somehow must continue, must go on. We're at the stage whereby business places, restaurants must continue. Ask yourself the question again: how many vaccines are out there for various sicknesses, illnesses? Some work, some may not work. So, therefore, is it something that is to be applauded and appreciated and welcome? And therefore, one can move on. But is it a plague, this COVID? What is it really? I don't think anybody has an answer. Do you have the answer as to what COVID is? Maybe, maybe not. We actually don't know. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts and those are my usage or so for today. As we tap onto it. But I think I may be joined by David who could give me some sort of further breakdown as let me see. David.
Hi, hi.
Hey David, how are you doing?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I said, the ladies weren't that well, so I said, let me just come on, just to show my face, show level of consistency, if anything. And
Exactly.
and as you, how are you doing? How's your day?
Busy, busy as always. Running from one meeting to the next.
Yeah,
Um, you know how it is. So I had a parents' evening this evening. So
yeah.
hence my delay. So
What was
uh,
was that parents meeting virtual?
everything's now virtual. The way of the world now is completely on virtual. We don't get to meet in person.
Wow.
So just certain things. It's a good topic to just start on. In terms of the virtual setup now. You can imagine if you are a parent of a new school or even in an old school, trying to meet
Yeah,
other parents, trying to sort of have social interactions is a lot different. How do
yes.
you get to know other kids in the playground? Now it's really difficult to do that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the state of play, unfortunately.
I was just really going through some things a while ago, David, in regards to the different tiers as they're locking down and the whole word of efficacy. That's been talking about the intended desired results with these vaccines. I was just sort of breaking it down and going through some articles there. But but what can you say? What can you say about where we're at now? Because I know every week we touch on this, but every week there's a new development. Every time the prime minister goes out there on the stand, every time he's being questioned, you listen. Joe Biden in America, we're talking about that we need to lock down. They talk Keima in America. They're saying they're suing him because he's locking down the churches. So it is something which is affecting the whole world. In Jamaica, you got the tourism sector is still at somewhat of a standstill, and yeah. So where would you say we're at now with these vaccines? Because isn't it a positive news? Lots of vaccines are coming out now, man.
I think it's the world is learning. That's what I would say. We're all trying to sort of get to grips with the information that's coming to head. And yeah. So the recent news is there are different firms that have introduced vaccines and reported efficacy rates
Mm,
between sort of 60 and 90%.
yes.
And I think that is positive. Quite obviously, that's the direction of travel. Quite obviously, it's been something that we've been ruminating on for the past few months and
Yeah.
speculating on whether this would ever come to fruition, particularly this year. And it seems that is materializing. So I can't look at this and say that it's bad news. I think it's good news. I think it's obviously something that all governments are going to try and to gather in regards to part of the exit strategy
Yeah.
in regards to COVID. So I can't look at it as bad news. The recent news, obviously, with AstraZeneca and their vaccination comes with sort of that disclaimer,
Yeah.
which is that the rates of efficacy, as you've put it, the way that this particular vaccine works,
Mm,
has been found to have a range of values. And I think what's going to happen now is that you'll find AstraZeneca will have to employ another trial with the regime that seemed to work in an effort to get that ratified. But the thing to remember here is, of course, in terms of the way that vaccines work, it's still above that limit in regards to the way that it works and how effective it is as a vaccine. It's just that I think because you hear of other companies with higher rates of, or at least higher rates on the small proportions of patients that have put through these trials of efficacy, then at least they want to try and strive for that target and that figure. There's pros and cons to sort of running trials again. Quite obviously, it needs more volunteers and so on and so forth. But I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, even though one may have any sort of reservations regarding vaccines, which and we try to make sure we pronounce the word vaccine in the proper sense, is that we have to look at it, David, at this point now that you can't continue like this. And if you continue like this, how do you get out of it? Do you get out of it by waving your hands and say, it's not here? Like some people are a bit, I would say, careless and a bit irresponsible by saying it's not here, and they're going about their business, and some of them just die in the whole process because, But with the vaccine, you got to put a practical sense to it to say, hey, at the end of the day, you got all these different vaccines for different things in life. Do you put up another perspective and say, hey, at the end of the day, people were used by vaccines and they have an effect. But you have to ask yourself this question, but how will you be able to reach to a point without trial and error and precedence?
And that's what happens with scientists.
Yeah.
Science isn't an exact thing in itself. And what I mean by that is it is trial and error. It's trying something on the balance of evidence and making sure that it works. And if it works, then fine. If it doesn't, you try a different particular avenue and trying to explore the respective outcome that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And it seems as though this AstraZeneca trial, at least, it was by chance that this higher efficacy rate was found. It wasn't something that I don't believe that they tried to set out to do and achieve, because the dosing schedule was basically based on a smaller proportion of patients within that trial. So there's a silver lining to trialing things, and that is that we found that it seems to be more effective in this preliminary data. So it's a great thing, and I love science. I think it's a great thing. I think it helps to sort of drive changes positively, and we'll just have to watch the space to see whether or not they can replicate the same scale with this particular regime that was found to be so effective in this instance. So yeah, let's push forward. Let's be happy with the news that's out there, and what this shows is the testament of how we challenge our medical sort of acumen. And what I mean by that is that we didn't take for granted that this thing was just going to be the best and it was going to work, etc. Challenge the data. Make sure you challenge the data. Make sure you test it and make sure that it's fit for purpose. And obviously, by challenging, we'll be able to make sure that it's effective. And that's what's happened in this regard.
And I think what I just read a while ago, the U.S. regulator called FDA have said any COVID vaccine need to be at least 50% effective to be useful in fighting the pandemic. So they're talking about a 50% rate.
Yeah, and as I said, this AstraZeneca vaccine is already at 60. So it's just that in the face of the other vaccines that are out there, it's just not meeting that particular target with the particular group that they were looking at in regards to their trial. So there's a couple of other things that's come to fruition. Obviously, the 90% group, it seemed that was given to people who were less than a certain age, and that age was particularly not a group that would be susceptible, or at least isn't as susceptible to the virus as, say, over 80s, over 90s. So there's a few nuances with regards to the AstraZeneca trial, and that's why I think there's got to be a repeat of their data before it would be accepted as a whole. But we'll just have to wait and see what the powers that be say.
Yeah. Well, listen, one tonight I said I'm not going to stay too long, but I do have I do have something for you, David.
Oh, okay.
So let me just play this for you. Yeah.
Okay, hear me out this morning.
They say Donald Trump has conceded. Well, I think whether they conceded or not, we don't think we know where it's going. For some persons, they make bets. But for today, here's a coffee, David. Here's your coffee. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I have delivered the coffee to David. Here it is.
Thanks, Sylbourne. I'll take that. Very nice cluster. Not before time, of course. Looks like somebody's conceded. Guys, thank you very much for the coffee. Remember, most importantly, stay alert, control the virus, save lives, but also have a nice cup of Costa coffee. Cheers.
You just said a while ago, apparently someone has conceded, David.
Somebody has, but not me. Obviously, I'm still in coffee heaven. That's where I am at the moment.
Well, I'm glad you get a coffee. I think today I was moving on to America was quickly. I was just listening to Joe Biden today, and I literally fell asleep, man. And I was like, this guy's a storyteller. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's good. He's just calm. He just peaceful. Just fall asleep and just snooze away. At least he doesn't get to.
What can we say? It's bringing a moment of zen to the world that we all need. That relaxation, that recouping the lost year that we've had with respect to COVID. So yeah, I'm slurping my coffee. It's going to be a long, slow coffee.
Yes. Because the gentleman who said that they're trying to work out his tweets to see whether he conceded or not. You keep them on their toes still, just dissecting every single word.
Well, I think that you can dissect the words, but the changes are coming. He's obviously putting together his selected ensemble of people that are required for government and to rule and to lead effectively. So, the changes are coming. I think it's a slow process, but undoubtedly the rules have to change now. The votes are coming in; they're being tested by state, or coming in state by state, and they're being ratified state by state. And I think there's little by way of or lessening of resistance to this change that's going to take place.
And were you a Maradona man?
I was. Obviously, Pele and Maradona, two of the standout footballers of generations. And it's a really sad passing, unexpected as well. I know people can sort of report on his lifestyle and his life, but as a footballer, amazing, graceful on the pitch, and changed football the world over, just with his skills on the pitch. So yeah, very very sad loss of life, especially early. 60s is not life really. But I think mourned the world over. 3 days of national mourning I hear in Argentina. And yeah, graced the football pitch, great goals. Even I think the hand of God.
The hand of God.
That even from English football fans, I'm sure they still recognise him as a champion on the pitch.
I was listening to an analysis of the hand of God at a time, whereby UK and Argentina with the Falkland War.
Yes.
During that quarter of time, and it was like Maradona there was like a symbol for the Argentinians, where they're giving it up to the UK. So therefore, the hand of God say we can get you, and then we went in and gave them more of it at the same time.
Yeah.
But there's another controversy which is going on. Of course, Maradona creates controversy still. Is that people are saying, "Hey, I thought Pele was the greatest."
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's unfair. You can have two greats. You can have a Malcolm X and you can have a Martin Luther King. You don't have to. They have to go against each other. Both of them can do very well for the time. And again, for the time, Brazil and Argentina, two big South American great footballing nations. And I have to give them the due. Both players for that generation were great. And Maradona, graced the football pitch. Just unbelievable. 15 seconds of magic lit up the World Cup, and I can't say anything more about it. The fact that he did change football for the better, and will be renowned as one of those footballing greats, and I'm sure is part of the greatest 11 that would be put forward for many a year.
So I guess at the same time, his legacy will live on as much as possible.
Definitely.
You don't hear about like if there's any COVID or anything over there in Argentina.
I think we get the news that's given to us. I think that's the other thing, and I say that, and I'll give you a reflection on that. When I was over in Argentina, all I got was Argentinian news. I was learning about sort of riots that were occurring in Argentina, and celebrities that are having this, that, and the other. So you get the local news, and unless you really search for it, you won't hear about it. And I don't know very much about the COVID situation over there, much like I don't know about the COVID situation in the Africas as well. What's going on there and how are people being affected. But with him, I don't know how it came to be that he unfortunately passed away. But I'm saddened by the loss of a great footballing genius.
Yeah, let's say he had a heart attack, I believe, or something like that. David, in light of the lockdown now, and what we did in April, May, when we did that 21-day challenge, Coach Chris Brown was saying that he was so impressed by me that I walk in the night. The night I was walking in the night, and my cousin said to me, "Mind up, you hole here." And I said, rolling calf. I showed to that's your mother.
Yeah. Rolling calf.
Matches behind you. But with the whole lockdown now, how do you see that as people faring and the whole sort of mental health and what your take on how is it faring here?
We've heard about the long COVID and the effects on health, physical health. But I don't know that there's been such a great reflection on sort of the mental health aspects of COVID. There's been discussion, don't get me wrong, but it's how much of a platform that has. And a couple of weeks ago, I think I talked to you about the fact that care homes, I think, had been really not looked into as greatly as I suspect they should have from a meeting point of view. When I mentioned the fact that a patient of mine had not been able to see a relative or his wife in the care home for many months. And, recent weeks we've heard about people being able to meet in sort of a bubbled environment at care homes. And I stress care homes because it's an example of life and of meeting people and of connecting. And just on the subject of connecting, when I first came on the program this evening, I talked about the ways that we come to interact with people, and the playground, we can't do that. We can't meet with parents in the same ways that we used to. You can't have kids over at the house because of obviously the restrictions that are currently in place. And I think all of these things can build up over time. And there's to answer the question, there's an exhaustion I think that people are going through. The exhaustion of the fact that we've been on lockdown for so long in different shapes or forms. We're hearing today, obviously, that a good proportion of the UK will be in either level 2 or level 3 lockdown. So it means going back to where we were for some folks and not for others. And it's a taxing time. It's a taxing thing to have this over us for such a prolonged period of time, especially when you've been used to something that's been quite different.
Yes.
And so to get your sort of head in the right space is going to be quite challenging, especially if you're in a restrictive area, and especially if you're in tier 3. And I think what we have to all try to do is to find the positives to this, to realize that this is not going to be lifelong, and have the hope and desire and passion to get moving mentally as well as physically. And what I mean by that is making sure that the things that do affect us on a daily basis from a mental health point of view. So the physical restrictions, the being in the home for a long time, not being able to see your loved ones, that we build in things into our day that allow us to try and at least exercise our mental health. And then physically getting out of the house in a way to support our physical health as well. Because there's no doubt that we can release those positive endorphins by doing physical activity, and that will get us in a better headspace. And that's the way we've got to really approach it, trying to find things that would make it a lot more bearable, and know that this isn't a long game. It's not, we're not going to be in it forever, but that we can achieve things outside of our current plight, by having that positive mental attitude.
So what you're actually saying then, in a way, is for persons to look at this time now as not a forever thing, and look to see how they can capitalize on this moment, capitalize on this season, whereby I was saying the other day that persons who went through the first lockdown, they had some dreams and they had some ideas and some things they wanted to do. I said when I was doing my walk once, maybe they need to look at it and say, wow, an opportunity has come back again for me to try to finish what I was trying to do, or some of those things which I was trying to do. Because it can be a daunting experience, whereby people, if they have tested for COVID, a lady was crying on the TV, if they're tested, there's a challenge they have now is, should they go home to their family, to their children? It may make sense that they go back home, because if they have it, more than likely the children, they're in that space. But then they're trying to be that parent who, while at the same time they want to hug that child and be with her, but at the same time they want to preserve them at the same time, the love of a mother or love of a father. So they are torn in that respect. And then you got situations like in local authorities, social services, whereby you got this raft of care proceedings going on where people are having contact, David, with children. But they can't have that physical thing now, because they've got to maintain a certain bubble within the places where they actually have these contact centers. And these contact now have to be even now virtual, where the parents who are separated from the children at the same time are not able to enjoy that 1 hour a week which they normally have physically. They now have to do it virtually. So it's a tug on a lot of emotions there, which is happening there. And I can see where they say the mental health factor can be impacted by that stress, that pressure. And that's where people flip and become zombies. Sorry, the purge.
Well, not so much zombies, but I completely take it that you can have a huge amount of stress that burdens you throughout the course and life journey of any process, and this process has been a long process in regards to COVID, and that's why I say we've now got we've had this go on for at least 9 months now, in this part of the world. And what I'm saying is we need to really build in the cloak of invisibility when it comes to the effects of COVID on our mental health, and try and dislodge those negative aspects. Yes, out of the examples that you mentioned there, being away from your family because you tested positive for COVID, period of 2 weeks, get that in your mind. 2 weeks, then it's over. Terrible 2 weeks, but it's going to be hellish. It's not going to be the best. But the positivity here, the standpoint in that particular example, is that after that 2 week period, you will be able to be with your loved ones again, if you make the decision that you are not going to be in that physical space and presence. So there's got to be a short-term loss, but a long-term gain, and we've got to play that long card when it comes to COVID.
So what you're saying is that persons will have to focus, and as you rightly say, put yourself forward thinking to say, look at the next 2 weeks and say, I'm there already in the 2 weeks. I'm just there preparing and getting myself sorted, because it's for a moment. I think the worst thing is when you don't know when. You don't know what it is.
Exactly. And I think that's where the positive mindset comes in. You've got to believe, hopefully, you've got to believe that this is something that will not be lifelong. This is something that will change going forward. And we all have that positive belief that the next year is going to be better. I'm sure we always had that. Before COVID, it was always, next year, we're going to improve upon this. You have a New Year's resolution. You have ideas and aspirations for the next year, the next journey. I think that the planning is in afoot now. We've had some good news that we talked about with regards to the vaccinations. Whilst I've always said in this program, I don't think it's going to be silver lining. I do think it's going to be something that will change the way that we go about things going forward. And I think most parts of the world have ruminated on the vaccination being that step that would help us come out of this particular pandemic. But again, the other thing that's got to be tested and got to be put into place are the plans to increase that positive mental attitude to take things forward.
And you mentioned the word right there, the positive mental attitude. How do people at this time have that positive mental attitude? And I always say the best way to have a positive mental attitude is to have a positive mental attitude. Really, it's not. It is. I call it like love. Love is not just an airy-fairy feeling. Love is about a doing action. It's a doing process. Tough love sometimes, and I think it's a challenging time, but as you rightly say, it's not the end of the world, and it must come to an end. As the Bible said, it came to pass.
Yeah, it'll come to pass. And I think that's the thing. We can get quite caught up on the now and the here, because physically that's right in front of us, right? We can't live for next year. And what I'm saying is, let's plan. Just think about time in the future. Yeah. I'm not saying to think too far forward, but think with positive thoughts. I think that will determine how you feel, how you move around, how you interact with others. And just knowing that this is not going to be something that lasts for a lifetime, I think will help give rise to that sort of positive mindset.
Mm-hmm. Well, David, I think that was fantastic. I think we had a very good quiet show. I shouldn't say it's quiet because just two of us, because Keima and Keisha might be watching us. What does Sylbourne mean by quiet?
These are not bringing the fire this week, but we don't have to bring the fire every single week.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's great just to share a couple of thoughts.
Yeah. Because I wasn't gonna come on after, I was gonna say let me just chill because I had a busy day today, and then I got a hearing in the morning at 9 for 10, and then another one at 1 for 2. Then another legal meeting at 4 o'clock, so I can see what that day is gonna be. You know what I mean? But
you've got the positive mental attitude to keep going.
But I got the positive mental attitude and plan in advance.
That's it.
Looking forward to go, and I'm looking forward to also Saturday. Saturday we have this young lady here. She wrote 3 books, David, in the space of 2 months. 3 books in the space of 2 months. She's in the States, but she's from Jamaica originally. At a challenge, but I just play this video just briefly and just promote it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Snow. I will be on the Sylbourne show on Saturday, November 28th at 4 p.m. US time, and in England it will be at 9 p.m. So you guys could check it out. Look out for the show. It's also going to be posted on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, so you guys can always come and check out the Sylbourne show. Stay tuned.
Sorry, let me take that off. That was me, wasn't it? That's what was her. That was. Yeah. No, I tell you, I'm very fascinated by. I had a young gentleman from Jamaica yesterday. He's not that young, but he's in Netherlands, and I had him last night. We were talking about just casual things, and he gave me a name of another person in Jamaica, husband and wife, doing some great stuff. And it's so interesting how you have people out there, David, doing things. That's why I said sometimes we can be so focused on the chump and all those other things, or missing out on some great, powerful talent.
Yeah. And I think this is great. And it's great that the talent spotting is there from very early on. It sounds like is it 3 books you said, or 2 books?
3 books.
3 books out in such a short space of time. It'd be interesting to hear more about them. How she came to.
One of them is controversial with the name. I don't know if you saw the name, how it's spelled.
I missed it, but I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to look at it in the write up. But the thing here is it'll be great to hear more about what drove her to sort of write those books in such a short space of time. What was the motivation? And what inspires her really?
Yes.
Because book writing is no mean feat. 3 books, that's amazing. It's really amazing.
During COVID.
Yes, exactly. And so it changes the mindset again, whether you're going to have that mindset of, okay, COVID's here, despair, or you're going to say, okay, COVID here, despair, but I can actually do something. I can try and do something that maybe I wouldn't have the time for Norma early. Maybe she would have had the time, but this has definitely been a driving force in some way to allow her to do what she's doing.
So we're going to do a wrap then. COVID is no time to despair, but to what? What's the right word to rhyme with that now? No time to despair, but to
shoot down the fear.
Boom.
There you go.
I knew you're a rapper. I knew it was in there. I was just waiting for it to get except I'll put a little beat to it, David.
Listen, you can fire off the first line, I'll do the ending, man.
Yeah, no time to despair, but shoot out the fear, because we're all gonna pair, because this is the time where we operate in no fear, no despair.
And life is just beautifully clear.
And life is just beautifully clear, as you can see, because you can smell the fresh air which is coming through. And if you continue, I just keep going on and on and on with the plan.
And I can keep going on over there.
Over there.
Oh, you better stop. I'm bad rapping now.
Yeah. All right, well, David, listen. All the best, yeah. So we at least we good for the first time. We finished at 10 o'clock. That's fantastic.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
Right. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Remember to like and subscribe, and all the best to Keisha and Keima. Keisha, make sure you get some chicken soup. I sent some virtual chicken.
Chicken soup. Coffee's not good for you. Chicken soup's good. Not coffee this time.
Yeah, virtual chicken soup. Or I'll have to do a video now and say, here's your virtual chicken soup. And those on Instagram, thank you very much. And those on Facebook, YouTube, thank you very much. And see you Saturday night and also Sunday night, because I always will get somebody from Jamaica too, because Jamaica is exciting. So many things happening in Jamaica there. So I'm trying to get Beanie Man on all these guys, because guess what, David? Many of these guys, they're doing things, but everybody's sort of held back in a way, constrained in a certain way. So I want to sort of tap into different person. And there's also things happening in the political dimension regarding the PNP again, because after Mark Golden became the leader, I think he has said that he prefer one person to be the chair, one person to be the general secretary, which I say is not normally the right thing for a leader to do. Okay. And therefore, it's creating some eruption, because there are 2 camps. Remember, there was Lisa Hanna camp,
yes,
and then his camp, and there's a split there. So he's got a wonderful opportunity to get things done.
So it sounds a little bit like the Labour Party here, not getting too political.
Sounds a bit like the Labour Party at a certain extent. And then the JLP with Andrew Holness, they're keeping everything tight, just carrying on, and just running Jamaica for the next 50 years, if anything like that. and like the Conservative, but I don't see much inner fighting going on now, but you can see the big split with the Labour Party. We got the Corbyn faction there. So it's good that we have these things that can take us a bit off.
That geezer.
Yeah. Well, you mean Trump geezer or COVID geezer?
No, COVID geezer.
COVID geezer. Yeah. All right, David, listen.
Okay.
All the best, yeah. We'll just wrap up, and then we'll just speak for a quick minute after.
Right.
Stay there. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, ladies and